Hello and welcome to the Silver and Black Coffee Hour. We're an Austin-based San Antonio Spurs podcast. This is episode, 24 through 6. It depends how you count some stuff. I didn't come here to do math. I came here to talk Spurs basketball with my friends Aaron Blackerby and Zach Montana. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. Just had some coffee from my favorite coffee shop in Austin, Talisman. If you know, you know.
Oh, I
And
know.
yeah, I'm doing good. Zach, how are you doing this morning?
Feeling good. Had my bacon and eggs to start the day. Can't complain.
You guys are more breakfasty guys than me. I've kind of conditioned my body to just eat when it can eat, you know? It's probably not. I probably need to develop healthier routines in that area of my life. I don't know, New Year's resolutions. But you know what? Sometimes you need to be indulgent. You need to feel gross.
Yes.
And
Tom,
I
would
think
you
one of
say
those-
you need to? Would you say you need to feel sloppy?
yeah, absolutely, dude. It is slop season. And I mean, I got to clarify here. Slop season is when we're talking about, like, oh, I'm hearing whispers about like PJ Tucker and Mo Bamba and Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills involved in the deal, which, by the way, counts as a Spurs and an Austin trade. We get the twofer. We got two Longhorns and two Spurs. Easy, book it. That's slop. All right, that's good slop. What hit our phones at around midnight Central Time last night was a Shams nuke. So ridiculous that I think most of us could not believe what we were seeing. The hack started trending on Twitter, right? Luca Doncic for AD, Luca a Laker, Anthony Davis on the Dallas Mavericks. What initial reactions when you guys saw that?
I picked up my phone and called my boy Gabe, who's a diehard Lakers fan. And I said, "Yo, have you seen this?" And this was like, I had the notifications on my phone, and I was just scrolling through Twitter, so I saw it right away. So I called him, and he clearly doesn't have some patience. And I go, "Are you serious? Are you seeing what?" I said, "Dude, you just traded for Luca Doncic." She was like, "Oh, let me call you right back. Let me check this out real quick." That's the reaction I got. Crazy,
man. So I had just gotten done watching the replay of the Heat game last night with the Spurs, and then I changed the channel I put on something kind of silly to like start, tapping out for the night. And I do this thing before I actually fall asleep where my wife and I call it an appetizer, where like that's when I fall asleep on the couch, and then like I'm like, oh, I wake up 30 minutes later. Okay, time to go to bed. And so I was in the middle of a deep appetizer, ready to go to sleep. And then I like look at my phone one more time and I'm like, and it kept me awake for a while. I texted a couple of my friends who are Mavs fans, just literally asking if they're okay.
Not in a sassy, like sarcastic way.
No,
like genuinely,
no, just
like
like
a good friend who cares about people.
Dude, I just like seen when I went up to Dallas a couple weeks ago, I just seen my friend Steven. His son is a Mavericks fan, has like a Luka jersey. Like I texted him, I was like, Steven, like, is Aiden okay? Like, that sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's just wild. And I guess like kind of my other thoughts on it are, Luca Doncic, I'd say a top 5 player in the world, was just traded for Anthony Davis and a first round pick. And, in the NBA, we kind of noticed that the market shifts when we saw like Donovan Mitchell go out and Rudy Gobert go out from those Jazz teams. Like that set the market at that point at, okay, like this is 4 first round picks.
It
saw this with the Knicks.
What it did.
Yeah.
It's like when that house on your block sells for twice as much as it should. And it's like, great. My property tax is going to be unaffordable in 2 years. Thanks.
Totally. And then like we saw it, remember this year with Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks. another like picked Hall, and like don't get me wrong, like Anthony Davis is a fantastic player and has been having a great season this year for the Lakers. But Luca Doncic is better, a cornerstone of the Mavs franchise. So to see him get tossed, I mean, I have like so many thoughts on it. Like, one, what does it do for some of our own like Spurs like rumors out there? Two, this is what happens when you have ownership group that's linked to gambling casinos. I texted y'all this earlier, like the Maloofs, when they were running Sacramento Kings for such a long time, made them such a joke of the league because of how inept they were. Three, Mark Cuban, are you okay? And four, I'm going to do the last one here. Mavs fans, this is a message to you. I'm not gatekeeping the Spurs fandom from you. You want to come and root for the team of South Texas? Come on. Wemby's got long enough arms to embrace all of you. Yeah, what's up, Zach?
I kind of look at this a little differently. I mean, I think this is going to be nasty. They called him fat already. They've already come out and said no, Luka is fat, and they don't trust defense. I mean, this is going to go down a path where it's going to be. I mean, personally speaking, I seriously think that the Mavs short term are going to be a pretty damn good basketball team. I think we're losing sight of what that did to the team. The team is Kyrie, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington at the 3, AD at the 4, and Daniel Gafford at the 5. I mean, that's if we're going to be honest. I know this is Spurs podcast. That's a pretty damn good team. Short term, I think the Mavs win the trade. Long term, I think the Lakers are obviously going to win the trade because Luka's 25 years old in the prime of his career. And does this motivate him to get in shape? Does this motivate him to get his hot bod on? He's in LA. Got to be looking good in LA. Everyone's looking good in LA. So
went to the smoothie capital of America.
There you go.
You know, like find Luca out at Erewhon.
Get ready to learn avocado toast, buddy. Like I think it's fascinating. I think it's the most shocking trade that I've ever seen in this league or any other. Like
mid-season.
Nope. There was no slop about this. This was midnight black ops. Top 5 player in the world traded in the middle of the night away from the franchise that traded for him on draft night, went to the finals with him last year. What
That's
happened
crazy.
here? What happened? What? Because like my two favorite things that I saw about this were Danny Ainge finally made a trade to put Kyrie and AD together. Amazing, hysterical. Wow. Secondly, somebody was like, I don't care if Luca Doncic was like sitting on the bench at practice, eating a rack of ribs, smoking a hookah, and like cursing everybody out. You build around that guy. You do whatever it takes to make him happy. The video of like him getting the beer taken out of his hand, it's like, bro, like what happened here?
I mean, something. The fact that they're already like doing this smear campaign is quite telling. On top of like taking away his supermax eligibility. I mean, it's $100+ million that they're screwing him over on. I mean, this is really telling about like, I think the Mavs organization, and personally, like people bring up like his weight and everything. Luka cooks people at that weight. Whatever, like who cares? Same with Zion. I've like said this before with Zion. Like Zion is another dude who does 360 windmill dunks and he weighs a lot. Like who cares? The best player in the league right now is a large lad in Nikola Jokic. Like this is like, I know it's antithetical to where people think the league as a whole is going, which is like length and athleticism. And then you have like two dudes, Eastern Bloc Europeans coming in who play at their own pace and can control the game because they're wizards of the game. So like for Luca and all of this kind of hit piece on him, I'm just like, dude, go on ahead and do that. I think he's gonna cook the Mavs like when he comes back to Dallas.
Well, we
But
see
what
how
we're
much
sucks
talking
too.
about like trade value, right? And the market, right?
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert was like 4 firsts, right? And Luca Doncic is a first in AD. And it's like,
it's
so now what's the deal? Now let's say that you're a team who's struggling, like, you know, in the middle, toward the bottom of the middle. You got a really talented star point guard. You got no leverage whatsoever. And that guy wants to go to the Spurs. I know who you guys think I'm talking about because we've, you know, we've been talking about De'Aaron Fox here. We've had great De'Aaron Fox slop. Really good Fox news for a change. Heyo, people got real mad at me about that one. But like, dude, the San Antonio being a preferred trade destination for star players, all-star players, crazy. Absolutely crazy times we're living in. And we're going to talk about De'Aaron Fox, what we know, what we don't know, what hasn't been confirmed by anybody who isn't Joe from Elkwood or
Elton Grove or whatever.
Ooh, Joe from Elk Grove, legend, absolute legend of the game.
he's
Incredibly
exposed some fraudulent
funny stuff
activity, though. I do love Joe for that. Thank you.
that was great. That was great. Yeah, tough scene. You know, there definitely, if you're like, you know, people will ask me for advice sometimes about like getting started in this industry, right? And like I've been writing about this team in some capacity for 10 years and, you know, credentialed for the last 5. And you know, I would just say that if you hear something on the radio, don't report it as sources are telling me. And yeah, I would advise not getting, you know, written about as a specifically debunked thing. But anyway, we'll talk about De'Aaron Fox in a minute. We've got to set it up though with where is this Spurs team, and we got some games to talk about. The first of which were in Paris, and Spurs were sliding, going back home for Wemby. And that first game, you know, he described as a top 5 one of his life, and I think probably accurate. That was so much fun to watch. He was so special in that one. Spurs beat the brakes off of the Pacers. Aaron, what did you see in this one?
I mean, the potential of the future with Wemby, you know, seeing him do everything. I mean, especially in the last week, we've kind of seen more and more shades of this. But the team was playing great in this one. That first game, at least, I was just great to see. One of the things that we've noticed is especially the slide off in the second half. And so to see the Spurs take some punches with the Pacers and then just blow the doors off of them in the second half. And there was some really interesting stuff that Mitch Johnson did in this game that we have now seen him do since then. One, entering Mamu into the main rotation. But another thing that was quite interesting here, he played 2 lineups that he has not played all season. We had a Jones, Vassell, Johnson, Barnes, and Sohan lineup. Then we had a Jones, Vassell, Johnson, Champagnie, and Sohan lineup. There, up until this point, had been no statistics, no advanced analytics on this group because they had not all played together. And those 2 lineups outscored the Pacers 26-14 in the aggregate. Which, I mean, we've always talked about, like, what do you do when Wemby gets off the floor? With some of these new bench lineups that Mitch Johnson has been rolling out, and we even saw it 2 nights ago, 2 nights ago with the Bucks game as well. They're playing really well. So I want to shout out to Mitch Johnson having some time on that plane, being like, yo, let's at least go get like a little bit more of an energy big out here. We're going to run Jeremy as the small ball 5 in these small lineups. It's pretty good for one game.
Can
And then
I?
the second
I
game
want to
was
go. I
pretty
want to
rough.
stay with this for just a second because I think that Jeremy was a standout in his return in this game. Because that rough losing stretch coincided, perhaps not coincidentally, with Jeremy Sohan being out, and he comes back and plays really, really solid. Both, like you said, when they slid him to the 5 and went small, which, by the way, that's the whole appeal of Jeremy Sohan in a nutshell, right? Is that last year they experimented with him at point guard, an experiment they were justified in doing. You know, whether it worked out immediately in the best way possible, which it didn't, but we've clearly seen, all right, he's got some like playmaking skills. He's built on that, right? And also a guy who can also play center, right? You know, that's the appeal right there, right? And in this game, there's a stretch in the third quarter into the fourth quarter with the world watching where Wemby goes absolutely nuts, does, you know, 10 different things that are all completely mesmerizing, right? And I watched that clip and I was like, wow, Wemby's incredible. And then I watched the clip again and I just watched Sohan. I just tracked Jeremy Sohan with my eyes. And he was note perfect. Point of attack defense, moving without the ball, passing it back to Wemby, running the floor, doing all of the little things where you're like, that's exactly the kind of guy that Wemby should be sharing the floor with, right? And the fact that he can, you know, have that impact in a lineup without Wemby on the floor, even with his, you know, noted deficiencies shooting the ball, I think it was really showing me something. Zach, what did you pick up from this one?
It's a good basketball game. They shot 60% before. You're never going to lose a game doing that. On top of shooting 50% from the 3-point line. I think everyone showed out. I think these 2 games in France were a microcosm of this season as a whole. You have a great game. You're like, holy man, this team could be unstoppable. This team could be one of one. Wendy's one of one. You know, who's going to stop plays like this? Then the following Saturday, you're like, oh, well, themselves, actually. It's who can sides themselves. So I thought that was, I mean, it's just you're so high and you're so low. And it's like, yeah, this is why they're a 500 basketball team. They're floating around the area because that's what 500 basketball teams do. They look great one day and they look horrible the next.
Yeah,
Can I ask you guys a question about the second game? And
What's
I put this in our run of show. Who was the only positive and plus minus in that second game against the Pacers where we got blown out?
oh God. Bomb.
Nope.
No.
Zach, who you got?
I'm looking at the box.
You can't be looking it up. You can't be
I'm
looking it up.
I'm just looking at the points and like minutes.
You're not gonna get it from the box score. I guarantee it.
Was it Wemby?
No.
To be like Vince. Well,
Zach-
that was what I noticed of this game was that the minutes were so skewed. They played such a weird lineup. They hadn't really playing like the whole third quarter and whatnot.
Right. So you don't got it then. I'm gonna
I
give you
don't
5
have
more
it.
seconds.
I'm gonna go
Julian
Julian.
Champagne.
Yeah, that's why I said Julian.
Julian Champagne.
Hey, but that's because he was playing in France. So technically, like he wasn't just sparkling wine. He was
Home cooking.
He was true champagne in this one.
Yeah, that second game, man, rough stuff for that
Yeah, it
team.
was that stunk like eggs. The watch party was fun though.
I had a great time.
Austin area Spurs fans showing up and showing out once again at the Armadillo Den. Great venue, great vibes, great coffee. Actually, they brought in a coffee cart from like Doxa, and those guys were cranking lattes and cappuccinos pretty much the entire time. Mad respect and
Scout
barista
them.
solidarity. They were kicking ass. Fun party, not fun game.
Not a fun
and
game.
I mean the fourth quarter when the wheels just well and truly fell off the thing. It looked like they'd been in Europe for a week, like it's at that point.
We did one fashion show. We had probably home cooking meal at Mama Wembenyama.
Right.
They had their Eiffel Tower pictures. What else they do that week? They had those various pop-ups. I mean, the NBA did a great job with it, but like that is going to add up on top of jet lag. So
Right, and they exerted themselves in beating the brakes off of them in the first game. So you leave that with a trade.
well, and let me give this context to it because like coming out of that week, especially on the slump, like coming out at 1-on-1, the Pacers are 17-5 since December 13th. All right, so to get a win against a hot team that's moved up to fourth in the East, look, to Zach's point, we're a 500 team. It's very hard to like set expectations for greatness for this team right now. So, you guys want to hop back to when
Don't
they
get
came
too high.
stateside?
Don't get too low.
No, not at all. But speaking of, then they came back to the States and had 3 games this last week against the Clippers, Bucks, and Heat. Tom, what do you got to say about the Clips game?
I think that we need to talk about Zoo Alcindor. That guy is like low key, maybe high key, like one of the best centers in the league. Straight up, like Jokic and Embiid, obviously Wemby. You could make an argument that Zoo, like if there was a 4th team All NBA, I think Zoo's on it, and he's got more wins than any center against Wemby. Tough matchup for him. He had 21 and 22 in this game. He's averaging 15 and 13 on the year. He is, I mean, just talk about a rock solid dude. And there were plays where Wemby got the best of him. Another game where Wemby just got a ton of blocks. But like, yeah, Zoo and they had like a little dust up, right? Which Zoo apologized for after the game, but he's a problem for sure, and gave Wemby some problems in this one.
Yeah,
I love the matchup. I love seeing Wemby go against these big bigs that try to put him underneath the basket. Yeah, it does always end up. It's gonna be highlights either way. I mean, I think as Spurs fans, I've seen a lot of people get defensive when Wemby makes a mistake or gets dunked on or gets a play made on him. For some reason, old me would have been the same way, but new me's like, I appreciate greatness, or like this is awesome. These are like back and forth sparrings that you want to see as an NBA fan. I love this. I love watching Wemby compete. The fact that Wemby got knocked to the ground, wanted to fight there for that split second, and then came back down. The Spurs were losing a little bit at that point, and then in the middle of the fourth quarter, it's a big 3 over Zubats. Step back, gets the rebound, runs down, hits a ridiculous step back, goes up 105, 104. I will tell you, watching these games, sometimes I get it's my ADHD in me where I try to get 3 steps ahead on what's going to happen. It's like when I watch a movie, it's like, oh, I can tell the end of this movie.
You're reading the foreshadowing.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there like, I don't like the way this game's going down deep in the fourth quarter. Kawhi had missed a damn bucket. James Harden's cooking. And Norman Powell's just unbelievable this year. And then they had Zubac. So it was one of those games where it got to the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter. Spurs are up point. I just had this theory feeling like they're going to let this one slip. I just had this weird taste in my mouth. And sure enough, it did happen. Well, not upset with the team. When we had 23
can I go back to something? Can I go back to something Zach said there about, when Wemby gets got? I'm totally with you. I'm not mad at it at all, because he's a guy that is blocking 4 shots a game, impacting many others, and he's going to be the defensive player of the year pretty much unanimously. for the next however long.
And we are pushing that narrative, Anthony Davis, who
Yeah.
is now a sworn enemy of the podcast as a Maverick.
He's gone from one enemy to the other. He remains an enemy, although he seems like a pretty all right guy. What
Yeah, actually, he
for
seems
him as a
pretty chill.
it is what it is, right? But Wemby is on track to be more than the perennial defensive player of the year who blocks 4 shots a game. He's on track to be one of the greatest players of all time, right? That's the expectation that is set, not because of narrative, but because of what he is and what he does, right? This is somebody who can be the GOAT. So everybody who goes into a game against him and thinks they have a shot to cram one down on that guy, they catch him just a little bit out of position. They think they can try it. You get blocked by Wemby, you get blocked by Wemby. But you dunk on that guy, you print that out 8x10 glossy 1,000 times and way bigger. You get that shit in 4K and you have that in the lobby of your house. You may never win a ring. You may never be an all-star. You may never be an MVP. But you get one dunk on Wemby and you got a photo that lasts a lifetime, man. So everybody who thinks they can do it is gonna try it. It's gonna happen.
Of course.
And it's
And
gonna
like,
be fine.
shout out to him for not making business decisions like that. It's kind of a new thing in the league for him to stay there. What's up, Zach?
I'm pissed. Actually, you mentioned business decisions. I tweeted about this on Friday night. Someone took a business decision deep in the fourth quarter of a game. His name is Giannis. We could have had an all-time moment at the ring, and he chickened out, and he didn't want no smoke. And that's the point I'm making, is that Wemby would have turned around and gone to that block.
Of course. Let me tell you about what I saw in this Clips game too. And this is going back to what I alluded to in the Pacers game. That bench unit, when they were down, really fought back. And the bench unit I'm talking about is Jones, Keldon, Barnes, Sohan, and Champagnie. They really did hold their own out there and, came out of it tied. It's one of those things where we definitely, once again, seen like when Wemby goes out, hold on to the steering wheel. Hopefully, like the wheels don't fall off or something like that. And this bench unit has shown in a very small sample size that they're at least keeping things close, which is kind of something that we've been asking for with this team. I think they ended up, our bench ended up outscoring the Clippers bench. We actually held Amir Coffey to a mere 0 points. Due to cooked us in the first Clippers game. So
I still having nightmares.
Well, all that being said, I just wanted to tap on that. And then, all right, let's get to Friday with
You've
the
been
Bucks.
thinking about that pun for 3 days, haven't you?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah. I think about this show a lot.
I do. And who would I be
good response.
to talk down on a fellow bitsman?
Yeah,
right.
But what I'll say on this game, so I really want to set the scene for the Bucks game, which, as I was watching it, I felt like had a lot of subplots because of the internet rumors that were going through it all afternoon, where it was like, De'Aaron and Fox deal is imminent. There are more than just the Spurs and Kings on this. And then there's all this speculation online from, who's a part of it? And then the Spurs are like, not Stephon Castle. Brian Windhorst comes out and says, not Stephon Castle. And some people are like, but I want to get rid of Stephon Castle if it means De'Aaron Fox. And then it's like, but that's not happening. And so then as I'm watching the game, I'm like, who's playing for their job? Who's playing to stay there? Who's playing? And there's just, like I said, I think when these rumors first came out, and then you see Stephon Castle come out, it start getting some turnovers, start really charging towards the basket, kill it. I'm like, well, I don't think we're trading that guy. But then a guy that we've had as trade fodder for years since he signed his very team-friendly contract, Keldon Johnson. like, he plays his ass off. He is the one at the end of the game who's yelling, "Go Spurs, go." He sounds a little defeated. There is so much just like, was that Keldon's last game? And thankfully it wasn't. But Keldon has been playing his ass off these last few weeks. On top of like his defense has been top notch. We talked about his isolation scoring, the way that he goes to the basket. And this Bucks game was just so weird because it seemed like maybe this is the last game with this group of Spurs, and they played their ass off and beaten down this Bucks team.
Here's something that I've been thinking about with this whole deal, right? And we got all of this like De'Aaron Fox reporting and rumors and stuff like this. What I will say is, just on the reporting of that stuff, when Don Harris, who has been doing this job at a high level for longer than I've been alive, like comes out and reports that the Spurs are active in talks with that degree of detail, that multi-team deal, that's a big deal that he's reporting that. All right. Very big deal. He's a very plugged in, very credible source on Spurs stuff, right? And he knows better than anybody that the Spurs are more active at this trade deadline than they have been in many years. More aggressive at this trade deadline in terms of acquiring players than they have been in like a decade-ish. So you have that coupled with all of the Spurs' main rotation players playing. What do we make of that? For not just this Bucks game, but for all of them, right? In fact, the only guy I was like, oh, Wemby illness, maybe he's getting traded. Ha ha ha! Who would trade their franchise cornerstone top 5 player in the world? Not my team. That would be ridiculous. That would be stupid.
Oh my God.
So anyway, like what do we make of it that Keldon Johnson and Jeremy Sohan and Steph Castle and all of these guys are playing, right? Because typically if you're gonna be making a big trade, you wouldn't be exposing playing the guys that you're gonna trade as much. So that's all just like smoke signals and reading between the reading the tea leaves. Some throwback segments there for you. But yeah, then they go into this Bucks game and absolutely rip them apart. Like
70 points in the first half, 70 plus points in the second half. I mean, incredible.
Another game where they're topping 140 in pretty short order. So when this team turns it on, like my takeaway from this is like when Wemby is balling and shots are falling, other team does not have a chance, right? If you're having a hot shooting night and Wemby is cooking, just start the buses.
It's over.
Get on them. Go home.
Tom, crazy stat from this game too. 4 total turnovers from the Spurs.
Nuts. And
two of those happened with the Victory Cigar squad out there too.
That's insane. And as impressive as the numbers are in this game, Spurs shot 24 of 50 from 3. Wemby, what'd he do? Let's see. 30 points, 14 rebounds. It was
6 blocks.
6 blocks. Yeah. 5 threes. But like the way he did it though, what the hell, man?
Well,
witchcraft.
Wemby killed the game in the third quarter. I mean, the Spurs went into halftime down a point. Shout out to Keldon, fantastic first half.
24 points total in the game.
17
Incredible.
First. He was awesome. He really kept the Spurs in the game in the first half. There for a while, Wemby was having issue getting rhythm, trying to find where he was going to get his looks. The game flipped on its head about 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. Chris Paul makes a steal at half court, gives it to Wemby, and everyone in the world knows he's going to shoot it from one step inside the half court line. Doc Rivers has his hands on his head, freaking out. Sean Elliott saying he's going to shoot it, and the ball looked like it touched the damn satellite up in the sky before it came down. Hit nothing but net. And then you're like, okay, Wemby's rolling. Then he comes down and saves. Stackhouse throws an impossible pass. Pirouette saves it, spins, tiptoes the line, spins again, banks it. You're like, okay, does it get any better? Then he hits a one-footed
Just throwing
three.
up bullshit. Yeah.
And he hits a one-footed three off the pick and roll. And you're like, I always love when the Spurs.
Hold on, Zach, give that more context. He hits a one-footed three going to his left, shooting right.
Yes. Off the pick and roll.
That yoga is working real well for him.
Yes. And what I love
the save in the three is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever looked at. It's like the other day I play a lot of no ball basketball, or like, you know, throwing the crumpled up paper in the bin type of stuff. But I'm always working on my footwork, you know. And I did a little, you know, shoulder fake and post fade, but from distance. I was like, nobody would do that on three. And I was like, maybe Wemby. And then he did it. And I was like,
my favorite part is watching when Wemby is on the offense or defensive end, but watching the opposing team's bench reaction when Wemby makes a play. I will rewind a clip 10 times and just watch. And when he hit the 3-pointer, when he's spinning around and banks it, the whole Bucks bench is just like, what the hell? And then he hits the 1-footed three, and you just see people get shocked, like they see like a ghost, like a jump scare. And I think that's just what people think about Wemby in the league. You're just like, we're a little petrified of this guy. I think those reactions, because those are natural reactions. Those are not thought out. Those are, holy shit, what did I just see from not my own teammate, from an opposing teammate that's going to make me react on my bench? That is always an eye-opener for me, and it happens so much with Wemby. He did it so many times on that game session. So, awesome.
Going into the Heat game, I guess it makes, because of Wemby sat out with seasonal allergies, it kind of puts in even greater context like how awesome he played in that Bucks game against the Heat team that is doing their best to deal with their own trade rumors of their problem child, Jimmy Butler. Put up a hell of a fight against them. But this is also where I was pretty positive on Mitch Johnson on some of these bench rotations and things that he's done. We still got to figure out this end of game lineups. And this is something that I think happened in the Clippers game where he's playing both Sohan and Castle in the end. And in this one, when we need like kind of another big out there to guard Bam, who got literally right to the Bam Adebayo spot. You know, he got it, and Jeremy Sohan's on the bench. You know, so there are obviously some things that still need to be worked on, but I don't know what else you guys want to say on this game.
Well, so I think for me, Pacers, Clippers, and Heat games all involve late collapses that this team has done a good job of avoiding, right? Kind of stuff they were doing as a young team, making a lot of mistakes last year. 5 minutes left in the game, Chris Paul hits Mamu for 3, and Spurs take a 99-96 lead. Last 5 minutes of the game, nobody without an AARP card hits a bucket, right? And you score 4 or 5 points from Chris Paul. Like, that was it. And so I think for me, this one really drove home, like if you're in a situation without Wemby and you got to close it out, you're relying on a 39-year-old man who's fantastic, but like there's got to be a legit second star to me.
What do you got, Zach?
No, I mean, I think last night was We lose Steph Castle 5 minutes ago in the fourth quarter, fouling out on an awful 6 foul. That's not a foul. That's just playing defense. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do as a defender these days. I mean, his hands are up. He's straight up and down. He's not leaning he's not leaning forward. He's not bumping anybody. He's just trailing the guy. I don't know. Yeah, I honestly personally think the game spiraled out of control when that happened. Steph Castle was playing well down the stretch. And you're right. There was no one that wanted to grab the reins and be like, I want this ball. We know Steph. We've talked about it a few times this season that he is fearless. So I feel like the game kind of spiraled out of control. And once you lose Steph Castle, you don't have Wemby and Devin Vassell shooting 8 for 22, 1 for 10 on 3. You're looking for somebody to put the ball in the hoop, and we know how that goes deep in the fourth quarter. That's the nitty gritty. That 5 minutes left in the fourth. That who's going to get me a bucket? That everyone tenses up. Who's going to be loose? And I think we saw that there really was no second star.
Let me give y'all one more question before we go to the next segment, okay? And y'all got to be quick on this one, right? You get 5 seconds to guess. One of these Spurs players over the last 4 games is 7 of 30 from 3. The other Spurs player is 8 of 21. Who are those 2 Spurs players?
I'm going to say Vassell and then Mamu.
Okay.
Vassell and AJ maybe.
Vassell is 7 of 30 from 3. Get this. Stephon Castle, 8 of 21 from 3.
Love it.
All right. I want to go into this because we're going to talk about trade rumors now. And I want to just kind of show another reason why I am very stoked on Stephon Castle and why we should keep him. Now, for the season, he has been historically a bad shooter. His historical averages on the season right now are 40% from the field, 27.4 from 3 on a 45.2 efficient field goal percentage. Across the last 3 games when they came back from Paris, he is shooting now 43% from the field, 41% from 3 on a 52.6 efficient field goal percentage. So our guy's getting better. All right. So with all that being said, Tom, you want to kick off kind of the trade rumors here.
So
how do we want to talk about this?
All right. Welcome to the Slops. Let's stick with Stephon Castle because I think it's a good place to start because there is reporting on this from reliable sources of information like Brian Windhorst saying Spurs don't want to include Stephon Castle in the deal. People saying nobody's untouchable. As we saw late last night, nobody's untouchable. But
something tells me the Spurs aren't going to trade Victor Wembanyama.
I don't think that's going to happen. And I also don't think the Spurs are going to trade Stephon Castle, and here's why. When Paul George got traded to the Clippers, right? It was a young player and like 5 first-round picks or some crazy. And that young player was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who they really didn't want to let go. Right? And you look at the situation that the Spurs have put themselves in, where they have a boatload of assets. They have, Mad Dog going, I don't know what the Spurs have that Sacramento would want. And Sean's like, they have 1 million draft picks. And Mad Dog's like, like the Spurs have a really, really incredible asset chest, but they also have this young player who's developing chemistry with their superstar cornerstone early on. They like playing together. Their games complement each other, right? That's not a guy you want to give up, especially if you're in a situation where you have all the leverage, right? Like, I mean, the Spurs and their fans know what happens when a superstar wants out, and has a preferred destination, what happens to your leverage? It's nothing.
Zilch.
So, and then you look at a trade like the Mavericks just made, where it's AD and a first for top 5 player. De'Aaron Fox is a great player, but he's not a top 5 player. You know, it's
I think according to the Ringers top 100 players, De'Aaron Fox currently sits at 19.
I think that's a great number. And I think if you put a top 19 player next to Wemby, give it a few months and he'll be working himself into top 10, top 15, and then top 10, right? Just
Tom,
by association and by cooperation with somebody who complements his game perfectly, right?
Well, Tom, let me speak to that real quick. So, the Ringer has put out like their top 100 players, on the season. It's a running list, and I thought there was something really fascinating that kind of like further shows, I guess, on more of a subjective standpoint, like how good Wemby has been this season for the Spurs. So most playoff teams that are in this list have at least 3 to 4 players on the top 100. The Spurs do have 3. We have Wemby, we have Devin Vassell, and we have Chris Paul coming in at 99. Now, Wemby is listed at number 6. Devin Vassell is listed at 72. Okay? And when we talk about this being a 500 team, possible play-in, like the ups and downs that we've seen in the season, no other team that has been in even play-in contention has that wide of a gap in their talent. No team. So once again, I think that gives an appreciation for how good Wemby is. And for someone like De'Aaron Fox, where we go from like, say, okay, that gap went from number 6 to number 19. Like, what does that talent boost, do for the team overall? I don't know. That's just kind of like something like I've kind of been looking at the last week to kind of give me more context to the Spurs season of what we need. So, I mean, food for thought.
I mean, for me, you're right, Tom. He's a 19th, whatever, in the ranking system, and I think playing alongside Wemby only amplifies what you do as a player. I think we've seen with Chris Paul
The
this
perfect
year.
word to use, Zach. Vocab points. Amplify.
There we go.
Wemby would amplify everything good about De'Aaron Fox's game. And there's so much great stuff about De'Aaron Fox.
I mean, it's Chris Paul is fantastic at what he does at such an old age. And I think we touched on it before in the offseason when we had this original conversation with De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul. And now it's we've seen a large sample size of what an actual point guard can do to win. And yes, Chris Paul might be a better playmaker at this age of his career. De'Aaron Fox is a better player overall. Simple as that. Can get to every spot on the floor. Can get those mid-range jumpers that we said, we expected to see a lot of those from Chris Paul this season. We hadn't seen a lot because Chris Paul just isn't the Chris Paul that we're used to seeing. And that's not a slight on Chris Paul at all. He's 40 years old. I'm not hating on the guy. I think what I'm saying is the fact that the Spurs are in a playoff contention, they're a lot better than what they were last year. Chris Paul and Wemby lead the league in assists to point combination between 2 players. Now, put De'Aaron Fox in that situation. Put a high pick and roll in the top right-hand corner where De'Aaron Fox can get to his left hand, going full speed downhill, and Wemby pops. It's over. Sorry, but that's his, it's not even. I was watching a clip the other day where somebody was saying that a high pick and pop with a pop shooter and a great screen is impossible to guard with a fast point. It's impossible. You have to pick your poison. You're gonna have to. The pop man is gonna be open 95% of the time if you set out a good screen, and that's just it's basic.
Well,
101. This guy is too fast for me. I have to slide to help. We're going to leave the big man open for 3.
Well, Zach, I mean, going back to that Pacers game in Paris where like Miles Turner was up on Wemby and Wemby just got the 3 over him, splashed it in his face. Wemby's always open. All right. So you give him even the slightest of breathing room. He's already got a quick release. He's already got good form shot. He already knows how to pick and pop. I really do think like with someone like De'Aaron Fox, let's just talk about let's just take away the name from it for a sec. And if you ask me like what the Spurs need overall, we need the number 2. I think we have a big enough sample size that like Devin Vassell, I'm not seeing it, you know? And not that he can't be like, not that he hasn't shown sparks of it, but like we need a consistent 20 plus point per game scorer. We need it to be consistent. That's just like a part of the league right now. De'Aaron Fox brings that. We need someone that puts pressure on the rim. We need someone that can bring the ball up quicker. We sometimes get into these offensive sets and we do not have the biggest free-flowing offense until there's about 15 seconds left on the shot clock. Just trying to get the ball down. So when we get someone that can at least push even the half-court offensive pace, that is something I'm very intrigued by with someone like De'Aaron Fox. You know, once again, like he's been a 3rd team on the NBA. He's only been a 1-time All-Star. He plays in the West. Like it's a very deep league. I mean, he's someone
one of
I'd
the
be very
fastest players in the league.
Yeah, and he's
Straight up.
learned to control that speed. You know, like he's learned to control that speed. When he first came into the league, he was just a speedster yelling Kamehameha from 3 because the dude's a Dragon Ball Z head.
Yeah.
You know, he had his hair like Goku previously styled when he first came into the league. Really fun character. So, I mean, I'd love to see him if this, you know, comes down to it on the Spurs. I'm just curious now, especially in light of the shadow of the Luca Anthony Davis trade, like what becomes his market value?
Well, AB, you said that my bad, Tom. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to make a quick comment about the number 2, having a number 2. You know, honestly, I think it's a 1A, 1B type situation. I'm not saying that De'Aaron is up there with Wemby's caliber, but I do think that there is a ebb and flow where they kind of feed off each other, where if you're going to take away one, the other is going to dominate. You're going to take away this one, the other one's going to dominate. So I do think that is the best form of moving forward for a sidekick with Wemby is you're going to have to take away me or him. And if you take away him, you got me. If you take away him, it's just that is the best way to have a counter punch with whatever a team does with us. With Devin Vassell being the number 2 right now, it's so up and down where teams almost we're not worried about this. Whereas we're worried about this.
I mean, I can tell you right now, like if we were in the playoffs, we have a very simple formula for getting defeated right now.
We see it.
It's body Wemby on when he's playing defense. And honestly, like take the Spurs Steve Nash approach. Just let Wemby shoot. Take away everybody else. Say like, okay, like Wemby, you want to bomb away 3s the whole time? Like I guarantee you right now, the formula like in a playoff setting is very simple. So to have, whether we want to call it a 1A, 1B scenario, a solid number 2, like whatever, we do need that like second creative scorer on the team.
All-star.
Second all-star.
So here's,
or even like I'd give like all NBA because after seeing like LaMelo get screwed over and Trae Young, like those guys are good players and everything, but like we need like an all NBA caliber, like second all NBA caliber person for this thing to really take off.
Sure, and this person needs to be able to complement this player's primary utility has to be complementing and maximizing Wemby.
Mhm.
Yes, we all agree.
1,000%,
right?
Of course.
100%. So this person needs to be able to maximize Wemby and his skill set, has to be able to survive, not just survive, but thrive, even when he's off the floor, be able to stagger those guys. So you always have an all-star on the floor, right? And you give teams different problems to solve, right? So for these reasons, would you prefer De'Aaron Fox or look to the East, where the Hawks have lost like 8 or 9 in a row? Jalen Johnson done for the season. They don't own their pick this year. Who does own their pick this year, by the way? And then the next
We do.
3 years, Spurs. You got 2 more years of Trae Young on a contract, making a bunch of money. You're looking down the barrel of something kind of bleak. Do you think that the Hawks are on the phone trying to get some of their picks back? Trying to get one of their picks back? The Hawks 2025 pick is, I think, the best trade asset, the most valuable trade asset that the Spurs have right now. So, and it's especially valuable to the Hawks. We've talked about this a lot. I've talked about this a lot because it is one of the most fascinating leverage dynamics in the NBA right now. Trae Young is leading the league in assists. If you put Trae Young and Wemby in a high pick and roll, the pressure that you can put on the defense with that, with Trae Young shooting, which percentage-wise hasn't been great. He's got range and a green light and he's hitting a decent clip. But like, I think a lot of people who don't watch Trae Young just think of him as a shooter, and in reality he's one of the best distributing playmakers in the NBA. He's the best right now. And he's doing that on a team without all-star help. Right? So, that's my question to you guys, is between those two, assume that since both of these teams are in terrible leverage positions, the return would be about the same.
What do I think?
Who would you rather have?
I think I had my answer already. I mean, I think it's Trae Young. I mean, that's my honest opinion with that. I think if we're looking for not to say De'Aaron Fox isn't a playmaker. De'Aaron Fox averages 6 assists a game. He's not a slouch. Trae Young is Trae Young is Trae. Right. Trae Young is Trae Young. And we've seen what Trae Young does with the click. You know, we've seen that it works. It added a few years to Capella's career, to be honest. After he left Houston with James Harden, you're like, where does this go? Well, it continued on. It's had flourishing in Atlanta. I think the easy answer is Trae Young, and also with the leverage we had. But my pushback with it is I do not want to get rid of that Atlanta pick. And I think if you go deal with it with the Kings, I think you could get by with not giving them that Atlanta pick. So that's my one pushback, where it's like, I want that Atlanta pick because I know it's going to come into something nice.
I think you're very right with that, Zach. And I think it's just like it's an interesting position, right? Because there can only be one, right? If
it's
both
a
of
Highlander
those are on the phone
situation.
wanting the deal done for their own sake, it can only be one. So it's like a reverse bidding war. Like, oh, we'll give you 10% off. We'll like there's
a price match guarantee.
You've got the two used car salesmen on the conference call together. You're like, all right, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So that's what I hope is happening behind the scenes here. And with all of the talk about De'Aaron Fox, I think the Hawks are got to be sitting there watching their draft pick get more and more valuable every game they lose, and thinking, crap, we got to do something. And
that pick's an
pretty much the only something they could do to alleviate that problem is trade Trae Young to the Spurs.
That pick is gonna come out. I mean, the way it's going and the way they've been playing, and with injuries, that pick is gonna. It's a Brian Wright masterclass if we've ever seen one. And we're talking picks. I don't mean to get too off subject. Who do we have a swap pick in 2029 with?
2030.
2030, excuse me.
Kings.
No,
No.
the
Mavs.
But
Mavericks.
they gotta
The
swap with the
Mavs.
Kings, right?
The Mavs.
The Mavs in 2030.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what Zach was making the point
Yeah,
Mavs in
on.
that-
2030.
so-
yeah.
So and who will be 37? Both their stars will be 37. So, hey, Ryan,
Yeah.
you keep doing your thing, big dog.
We've said this since the inception of this podcast. Brian Wright does have a cell phone.
And an Apple
I
Watch.
mean, yeah, you know, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
I mean, just the whole landscape once again, I feel like has been kind of changed with this Luca for AD trade. And because it's not filled with a lot of picks, like it's kind of hard to equate because it's like Anthony Davis is no slouch. He's an excellent player. But like you should have gotten at least 2 to 3 first round picks for Luca. Like very strange.
They want to get rid of him. They wanted to get rid of him. This is like their way of saying that.
Clearly. I mean, I don't. I'm kind of more just thinking out loud, like in regards to the Spurs and what this means for them, because I will say I've been kind of the most sheepish on Trae Young, I think, amongst the three of us coming to San Antonio. I'm a little less these days with the way he's playing. And I think regardless of who we get in the door here, their games will be actualized with a guy like Victor Wembanyama on the team.
One thing here is the type of return that the Kings and Hawks would want, I think is different, right? Because the Kings would probably like to compete now, which is why it would make sense that if the majority of what the Spurs are sending out is draft picks, then it would need other teams to be involved to bring higher level talent to Sacramento. The Hawks, if they're trading away Trae Young with the injuries that they have, they need their pick this year and they're aiming for the bottom, right? That's it. So then that's a more direct, salary filler and pick,
Right.
parentheses S. So yeah.
Well, let me ask y'all then this question, because the other side of this from a Spurs standpoint is some players are going to be gone, probably some that we have grown to like and love. Of who's on the roster right now, who would you be saddest to see go? Mine, stand up. If Jeremy Sohan was involved, I would be incredibly sad about him. I love Jeremy Sohan. So what about you guys?
Man, I mean, there's really all of these guys I've gotten to know for their entire time here. Every single one of them. Keldon Johnson is the longest tenured Spur, and I've known him since he was a baby Spur, And I have known him to be incredibly passionate and a beating heart of this team at times when it was on life support, So, if they were to move on from Keldon, I would be very upset. If they were to move on from Jeremy Sohan, that would make me very sad. Broke my heart when Derek White left. I was so sad about DeJounte. I've been sad about Pirtle. All of these trades, all of these guys leaving. I'm like, man, I really liked that guy. So it'll be hard. It'll be hard. And Wemby sort of talked about it. Like, this is, we're all people, and it's weird that we can be just moved around like this and just trying to stay focused. It's hard, right? So yeah, it's gonna be tough whatever happens. And I just hope that they find good homes wherever they go. Like when Boban went, that broke my heart, but it was like he needed to do that for his family. So I'm rooting for all of these guys as human beings, whatever happens.
Yeah. Well, do you have anyone in particular though, off this
I
current squad?
think Keldon would be like, even if it made the most sense, right? Would be like a particular gut kick for a lot of people. And he's somebody that I've really grown to admire. So yeah, that was thinking.
Zach, what about you?
I'm gonna be not answer the question because once again, I love every player on the Spurs. But on the Spurs roster, I'm a dire Spurs fan. If you put on the silver and black, you got us full and full support. So anybody that gets traded will get told they did a great job for my team, tried their hardest, and that's all that counts to me.
Well, all right then, Zach. Once and if and when a trade happens, we'll just check in on your emotional state.
There you go. There you go. It won't be
think-
good. No, it'll be like a combination like that. Like, I think
I'll say this: the trades that they have made, I've understood them as much as they've hurt me.
right.
I think any trade that comes now is going to be one that makes me happier than it makes me sad. I'm more
Yeah.
excited than it makes me bummed out. But I will still be bummed out to say goodbye to any of these guys. So let's look at the week ahead for the Spurs because we've got some sort of interesting games here. We've got a game against the Hawks. We've got a revenge game ? Against the Grizzlies before that. And that game against the Hawks is actually the last game before the deadline. That's Wednesday. Trade deadline's Thursday.
Just hop
So
on the
I'm
plane with
gonna
us,
be-
Trey.
I am
Tom,
watching
it's-
that injury report with great interest.
Tom, you forgot to say it's the beginning of the Rodeo Road Trip. We have the January Gauntlet. Now we have the Rodeo Road Trip.
Damn.
Like,
It's been tough sledding for the fellas here. Yeah, Rodeo Road Trip.
Yeah.
That game against the Heat was the last one at the Frost Bank Center for like the month of February, pretty much. So yeah,
they'll be back in March. And before we go into the game, just do a little Spurs where we rate on some certain things. We're 18th in net rating, 15th in offensive rating, 17th in defensive rating. We are 21st in 3-point percentage. We keep saying we're a 500 team. We're a little below 500 right now.
Show
Still
feels like-
battling for a play-in spot. And on Monday, we are going to start kick off the Rodeo Road Trip at Memphis, who is rolling right now. They're 4th in net rating, 5th in offensive rating, 7th in defensive rating, and 8th in 3-point shooting. And they play really well, even when John Morant ain't playing. So what do you guys got on this one real quick?
I'm just hoping that, Sohan was missing in those games where Spurs got it handed to him. And I'm hoping that he brings some of that was missing. And, gets a little bit of the necessary nasty to make it a more competitive and hopefully fruitful outing for the boys.
Guys, there's just teams in the league that have our number, and I think one of these teams is Memphis at the moment, with the way they match up with us. So this is going to go well. I have a bad feeling about this one. Ja loves getting up for Wemby. I don't know. I don't think he pissed Ja off for any reason, but I think he just loves getting up for Wemby. And I think Memphis itself loves getting up for the Spurs. We have had issues with Memphis when they are fully healthy. They're fully healthy. Good luck.
And they won 8 of the last 10 games. They're rolling. So I do think that this is going to be kind of kicking off with a loss. But then we go to Wednesday against the team we've already talked about a lot, the Atlanta Hawks. They are going to be 21st in net rating, 23rd in offensive rating, 14th in defensive rating, 26th in 3-point shooting. They're in a tailspin, especially since Jalen Johnson is out with his shoulder injury for the season.
8 consecutive losses for the Atlanta Hawks. They've got the Pistons. They've got the Spurs. They've got the Bucks. They've got a game against the Wizards. They might win that one. But like, this is their last game before the deadline too. So that game against the Wizards, depending on how the deadline goes for them, might be a true slop fest.
It's our subplot game of the week, I would say.
This is our Yeah, this is a really fun B plot. De'Aaron Fox A plot. This is the B plot for sure.
What do you think, Zach?
Spurs should win. There's no excuse. I mean,
Quick hit. I like it.
there's nothing more to be into. They should win.
Well,
I think we can say the
speaking
same
of,
for that Hornets game afterward too, right?
I was
I
gonna
mean, this
say
is-
the
the
Hornets
ball still hurt.
game next week. Yep, they're playing Charlotte on Friday, and so Hornets 24th in net rating, 28th in offensive rating, 14th in defensive rating, 25th in 3-point. And just like you said, Zach, I mean, if there is any get right game on the schedule this week, it's going to be that Hornets game.
Yeah, that
Man.
they have no excuses on that Hornets game. The Friday night, it's an early tip. It's one of those weird games where you watch it on TV, you're like, I don't. I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of these rodeo road trips, and for some reason, there's always a game or two on these rodeo road trips where it's like, yeah, you should have won that damn game. This team was hurt. This team was whatever. They need to show some fight in this game. Will not hit push will not start.
Yeah. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, gotta beat Charlotte, and then it's not just you gotta beat them. You gotta beat them hard and fast and early, so you can get the guys to the bench, so you can get rested and get on the plane and get to Orlando and compete well in that game against a team that has done a really good job of team building. They've had some struggles this year, but like the Magic are a fun and good team. And so you got to put the Hornets away early and get
they're-
ready next night.
Yeah, and that's going to be on Saturday night. And the Magic are a nasty team. They're 20th in net rating, 29th in offensive rating, 3rd in defensive rating, 30th in 3-point shooting. And look, we have seen that the Spurs have trouble when Chris Paul gets picked up full court. Jalen Suggs is coming for that. He's going to do that. They've also dealt with this huge injury bug this year between Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner being out. The Magic just put, like, I think, bring a lot of big bodies, a lot of length, a lot of nastiness on defense. That is a real, between when we record next, you know, like Grizzlies and Magic, that's quite a hell of a sandwich to be put in.
Orlando Magic are awful on offense, but they play some tight ass defense, which is, and they've always played Wemby well, which is what I am kind of curious to see how they play him again.
This is a really
It should
strength
be a
against
win, though.
weakness. This is a strength against weakness game on both sides of the basketball. So it's I'm really interested to see how this one plays out. Should we make predictions? What do we think on the week?
3-1, 3-1 for me. They're gonna win 3 games this week. Trust me on this.
Wow. Okay. I was wondering if I was going to be Mr. Optimistic here. I'm actually going to go 2-2.
I think the Spurs go 3-1 and get an all-star, baby. 3-1, get an
okay.
all-star
I didn't
point
make
guard
that
and a
prediction.
backup big man. I'm calling it.
I
I'm
didn't make
speaking
that.
it into existence. I'm
didn't-
manifesting.
I didn't say that.
I'd like a Porsche 911 as well.
Wow. Okay. Well,
But
look, they do that.
the last thing is like, if you can, no worries. Whoever's in charge of that.
Like, man, we're 2 games out of 10th with the Kings right now. So
Do a little sloppy swap.
maybe, man, maybe. Okay. Well, yeah, this has been a lot of fun talking slop season with you fellas. You know, I mean, what do you guys got to say before we sign off?
Make sure you get your slop from a trusted slop provider.
Yeah, I mean, you know, don't be taking calls from the radio show thing. It's proof. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'll sign off by saying Hootie and the Blowfish's debut album, Cracked Rearview Mirror, still flaps. Listen to some Hannah Jane someday, man.
Oh, dude, I did a Hootie sound check the other day.
There you go, man. Just some Herm Jarl for y'all to sign off. But This has been the Silver and Black Coffee Hour. Thank you guys.
Later,
Like and subscribe.
Let the tears fall down like rain.
Hey, copyright.
We're gonna
Don't
just
do that.
fade
Don't do
out
that.
on
Don't do
Tom.
that. We're copyrighted.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.